Chapter 2046. Ninth Sister-in-Law. Did you see those people's gazes? After Chingu stepped into the Mo family's territory, the corners of his eyes twitched as he spoke in a deep voice. What gazes? Jingyu said calmly. They are envious of us. Do you understand? When Chingu heard this, he lowered his eyes silently and didn't say a word. Xiao Chun, Qing Shui, and the others were calm as they walked in front of Mo Ruhua. When Mo Ruhua saw Jingyu and the others, she seemed very happy. She was clearly happy, but she still raised her chin and pretended to be arrogant as she asked Jingyu and the others to sit down. Jingyu was really good at flattering her. She kept talking about how attractive Miss Ruhua was, how beautiful she was. Qing Ji's face alternated between red and white as he listened. Qing Shui also had a smile on her face when she saw how happy Jingyu and Mo Ruhua were. Miss Ruhua isn't just beautiful. Look at those men. They're trying their best to get close to Miss Ruhua. Just one look, and you can tell that Miss Ruhua is from a wealthy family. What right do we have to sit on the same stage as Miss Ruhua? My Mo family is the largest family other than the family head. Those men just want to marry me. Do they have a powerful background? Do you think I'm that easy to marry? Mo Ruhua turned her head away in disdain. Wow, the Mo family is so powerful. We came from a remote town and said that we wanted to see the prosperity of this town. This is the first time we've seen it. I wonder what kind of person the chief is. Jingyu seemed to be very surprised, and her eyes lit up as she asked, Family head. When Mo Ruhua heard Jingyu ask about the family head, she immediately became very happy and said, Uncle Family Head is very good to me. He is very kind. The people outside say that Uncle Family Head is fierce. They're all talking nonsense. However, Uncle Clan Chief has not come to see me for a long time. Ever since eldest young master fell ill, Uncle Clan Chief has rarely appeared. Mo Ruhua said helplessly. Looking at her appearance, she was truly worried and sad. When Jingyu heard Mo Ruhua's words, her eyes lit up. It seemed like there was hope. I've heard about this. Didn't young master fall ill a year ago? Hasn't he recovered yet? Jingyu's eyes flickered as she asked in surprise. Isn't that so? The eldest young master was about to hold a succession ceremony, but he suddenly fell ill. The patriarch looked for all the famous doctors, but they were unable to save him. I thought that Uncle Patriarch had no successor, but I didn't expect that more than a year ago, he brought back a little miss. When Mo Ruhua said this, she angrily threw the teacup in her hand on the table and said, She's so ugly, and she even seduced Brother Air. She's so infuriating. When Jingyu heard Mo Ruhua's words and how ugly she was, the corners of her mouth twitched violently. If she guessed correctly, this little miss was Fengyu, right? Fengyu was ugly. Jingyu gulped and nodded in agreement. In front of Miss Ruhua, everyone has to stand aside. After all, Miss Ruhua is so beautiful. When Jingyu said this, Mo Ruhua smiled in satisfaction. Chapter 2047. I won't lower myself to her level. Mo Ruhua calmly curled her lips as if she had thought of something. She turned to look at Jingyu and asked, Speaking of which, why are you always wearing a mask? Miss Ruhua, my face was accidentally damaged by the fire. That's why I'm wearing a mask. I'm afraid that if I take it off, I'll scare people. Jingyu said sincerely. Her words were filled with a deep sense of inferiority. She reached out and pulled Xiao Chen over. This is my husband. Back then, I didn't dare to marry him because of my disfigured face. I didn't expect that my husband would also disfigure his face. That's why we're both wearing masks. You two are really affectionate. When Mo Ruhua heard Jingyu's words, a hint of surprise flashed across her eyes. She then looked at Jingyu and Xiao Chun enviously. She seemed to have become closer to them. The bonfire festival officially began. When Jingyu turned her head, she saw many handsome men and beautiful women wearing strange clothes dancing around the huge braziers. There were many people drinking wine. She often saw many people reaching out to invite the ladies beside them to dance. When Jingyu saw this scene, she raised her eyebrows in amusement. Some bold ladies would also ask men for a dance. Jing Yu's gaze swept across the ball as if she was looking for something. However, she didn't find anything after looking left and right. Xiao Chun, do you think Fengling is here? Jing Yu approached Xiao Chun and asked curiously. She's here. When Xiao Chun heard Jing Yu's question, he replied swiftly. How do you know she's here? Did you see her? Jing Yu looked at Xiao Chun in surprise. Xiao Chun turned his head to look at Jing Yu. He reached out and pulled Jing Yu into his embrace. He said happily, right now, we're the center of attention. As long as Fengling isn't a fool, she'll come and find us after the banquet ends. Xiao Chen's reply was straightforward. When Jing Yu heard Xiao Chen's reply, she lowered her head helplessly. Why did she feel like she was being looked down upon? This banquet is really boring. Mo Ruhua sat in her seat. Unexpectedly, no one came forward to invite her to dance. Her originally smiling face slowly stiffened. It's indeed boring. Jing Yu replied very seriously. Look at these men. They are all subdued by Miss Ruhua's figure. They don't dare to ask for a dance in front of the mountain, afraid that Miss Ruhua will reject them. How embarrassing would that be? When Mo Ruhua heard Jing Yu's words, she turned her head curiously. Her eyes were filled with surprise. Men are all prideful. If Miss Ruhua doesn't mind, why don't you let 15 dance with you? When those men see that Miss Ruhua is actually very easy to get along with, there will definitely be a lot of men fighting to ask you to dance. Jing Yu said so seriously. However, she didn't notice that 15's face had turned green when he heard Jing Yu's words. Madam, 15 called out to Jing Yu in a trembling voice. When Mo Ruhua heard Jing Yu's words, she immediately felt that it made sense. She turned her head and looked at 15th inmate. He looked quite handsome, so she felt that she could give it a try. She immediately raised her chin and said, I have the same idea. I'll give you a chance. Chapter 2048. Hearing Mo Ruhua's words, the corners of 15 Xing's mouth twitched. He turned to look at Xiao Chun with a pitiful expression, his face saying, Master, save me. However, Xiao Chun was focused on playing with Jing Yu's fingers. He didn't even look at 15th Xing. 3rd Xing glanced at 15th Xing silently and gave him a look that said, Brother, take care of yourself. Then he turned his head and heaved a sigh of relief. Luckily, Madam didn't call him. 15th Xing looked at the silent approval of the crowd. He suddenly felt that there was nothing left to live for. Qing Shui and Qing Gu lowered their heads and smiled. They watched 15th Xing brace himself and walk to the bonfire with Mo Ruhua. Mo Ruhua actually had a man asking her to dance. She instantly attracted a lot of attention. The gazes that looked at her had a very peculiar feeling. Following the sound of the gongs and drums, 15th Xing was deeply shocked by her dancing and twisting figure. It was a kind of turbulent shock. If one ignored Mo Ruhua's face, her figure was simply enough to make one's blood boil at any moment. Moreover, she was wriggling her body now. That seductive figure made 15th Xing shift his gaze away with difficulty. He felt like he couldn't take it anymore. The gazes of the surrounding people were all stunned at this moment. They were suddenly very envious of 15th Xing. He could actually feel the turbulent feeling at such a close distance. Jing Yu sat on the high seat and sighed deeply. This is what it means to be the center of attention. Xiao Chun, Qing Gu, and the rest twitched their mouths. After this dance, the entire crowd was in an uproar. Mo Ruhua was sweating profusely, which made her even more alluring. Her sweat slid down her neck and into her cleavage. 15th Xing swallowed his saliva with difficulty and shifted his gaze away. Not bad. Mo Ruhua's eyes and face were filled with unconcealable joy. However, she still pretended to be arrogant. She raised her head and turned to walk towards the high seat. The moment Mo Ruhua sat down, countless men swarmed towards her. All of them wanted to dance with her. Mo Ruhua was stunned when she saw such a scene. She turned her head and looked at Jing Yu. Jing Yu smiled at Mo Ruhua. Mo Ruhua's eyes were filled with joy. Jing Yu was telling the truth. This night's liveliness successfully caused Mo Ruhua's name to stir up again. Jing Yu, Xiao Chun, and the others also successfully became the topic of discussion. Jingyu and Xiao Chun, on the other hand, remained calm. After the evening party ended, they went back to their own inn. Where's 15th officer? Jingyu asked curiously when she realized that 15th officer had disappeared. 15th officer jumped into the river. 3rd officer looked amused. He said he needed to calm down. Ha ha! Jingyu was stunned. However, after thinking about it carefully, she seemed to have thought of something and burst out laughing. Xiaochen looked at Jingyu and tugged at Jingyu helplessly. Naughty girl. Jingyu had been laughing at 15th interrogation officer for a long time. It was late at night. Jingyu and Xiao Chun washed up and climbed into bed. It was very quiet outside. However, under the moonlight, they seemed to see a figure enter the inn silently and look around. Then he walked towards the bed. Chapter 2049. A figure swayed beside the bed frame. The black figure had just moved a little closer to the bed when he suddenly felt an icy chill wrap around his neck. It's me. The black figure froze and hurriedly said this sentence. The lights in the room lit up. Jingyu stood quietly behind the black figure. The thing in her hand was the thin, heavenly silk. Just like that, she wrapped it around Fengling's neck. Fengling? When Jingyu heard this familiar voice, she was instantly stunned. She slowly kept the heavenly silk in her hand. Xiao Chun also extinguished the fire and turned his head indifferently. Sure enough, he saw Fengling standing in the same spot, dressed in black. You like to enter the room at night so much? Xiao Chun looked at Fengling with a cold expression. His gaze was filled with warning. You guys spent so much effort. Isn't it just to lure me over? Fengling smiled very calmly. There was a faint smile in her eyes. She looked at Xiao Chun and Jingyu and asked, Jingyu, long time no see. When Fengling said this, she turned her head and looked deeply at Jingyu. Looking at Jingyu's pitch-black eyes, her gaze flickered slightly. It has indeed been a long time. Jingyu also smiled indifferently. Of course, Jingyu knew what Fengling's gaze meant. When she was announced dead a year ago, she thought that she would never be able to see him again. However, she did not expect that she would only be able to see him now. Seeing Jingyu standing in front of him, unharmed, naturally, it had been a long time. You really know it's us? Jingyu smiled as she looked at Fengling. Only you guys have the ability to appear so brazenly in the city center. Do I even need to investigate? Fengling slowly sat down and looked at Jingyu and Xiao Chun. She sighed deeply and said, Of course I came looking for you. We're hiding something. Jingyu glared and said very seriously, Look, we're wearing masks. Fengling's lips twitched, and she silently turned her head away. News of what you did in Nanjiang must have spread to Beijiang. Madame Nia will know sooner or later, Fengling said indifferently. Fengling said indifferently. Now you should tell me what you're here for, right? It's very simple. Jingyu silently blinked and replied, I just want Fengyu to take over the position of clan leader as soon as possible. What do you mean? Fengling's lips twitched fiercely when she heard Jingyu's words. A trace of seriousness flashed through her eyes as she looked deeply at Jingyu. Her overflowing vigilance made Jingyu purse her lips in disdain. Why are you so nervous? Jingyu smiled faintly. Isn't it good to help Fengyu take over the position of clan leader? What do you want by doing this? Fengling was silent for a moment before asking again. Don't you know? Jingyu propped her head up and said, What I want to do, of course, is to kill Madame Nia. Fengling was startled when she heard that. She looked at Jingyu and said, You're here for revenge. You want Nanjiang and Beijiang to go to war. When Fengling said this, her expression became incomparably ugly. Can I? Jingyu was very calm as she looked at Fengling and said, Haven't Nanjiang and Beijiang always been at war? I just want the southern border and the northern border to never be at war again. Chapter 2050. You want to unify Miaojiang? Fengling was stunned. She looked at Jingyu fearfully. Can I? Jingyu squinted her eyes and said, It's not me who unifies. It's Fengyu who unifies. After Jingyu said this, Fengling suddenly fell silent. In this short conversation, Jingyu had said everything she wanted to say. Fengling also understood Jingyu's meaning. Looking at Jingyu's expression and thinking about Jingyu's words, her expression quickly changed. Don't be so nervous. Jingyu stood up and said, I won't harm Fengyu. Whether you want to do it or not, you and Fengyu could decide for yourselves. Take care. I won't send you off. Jingyu yawned silently, stood up and walked towards the bed and said, Why aren't you leaving? Don't tell me you want to stay and sleep with me. Fengling's mouth twitched, and she quickly left. Jingyu laid back on her bed contentedly. She wasn't worried at all that Fengling would reject her, because Jingyu knew that Fengling definitely wouldn't reject her. This night was very short. Jingyu even felt like she had just fallen asleep. Why was it morning already? No, I don't want to get up. Jingyu hugged Xiao Chun and continued to close her eyes. She looked like she was still sleepy and didn't want to get up. Xiao Chun didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Qinggu and Xing San are waiting. Xiao Chun pinched Jingyu's chin and said helplessly, Let them wait. Jingyu answered drowsily. She didn't want to say more and looked like she wanted to sleep. Xiao Chen's eyes were tinged with a faint smile. After making a ruckus in bed for a long time, Jingyu finally got up reluctantly. The next time I see Fengling, I'll definitely break his legs, Jingyu said with a ruthless expression. Xiao Chen stood at the side and raised his eyebrows calmly when he heard this. When Jingyu and Xiao Chun went downstairs, they saw Qinggu, Jingyu, and the others sitting at the side and waiting. When they saw Jingyu and Xiao Chun come down, their ambiguous gazes made Jingyu facepalm. These people, what kind of gazes? Jingyu sat down calmly. Xiao Chun also sat down beside Jingyu. Qinggu immediately leaned over and said deeply to Xiao Chun, Ninth brother, although Ninth's sister-in-law's health has recovered, it's still better to control yourself. Jingyu spat out all the water that she had just drunk. Okay, I'll take note. Xiao Chun calmly glanced at Qinggu, raised his eyebrows, and replied calmly, Jingyu looked at the two of them and instantly twitched her lips. Just as she was about to speak, she saw a person walk over. It seemed to be Mo Ruhua's maid. When she saw Jingyu and the others, she actually walked over and said that Mo Ruhua invited them to play in the residence. Jingyu was stunned. She thought about it carefully for a moment and agreed. Go to the Mo residence. Jingyu pondered for a moment and frowned. Why would Mo Ruhua invite them to the Mo residence? Could it be that she really wanted to infiltrate the Mo residence? Ninth sister-in-law, should we go? Qinggu was 100% unwilling to go. However, from the looks of it, it seemed like they really had to go. Go, why wouldn't we go? Jingyu nodded slightly and stood up. Let's go. Pack up and go to the Mo residence to see the world. Chapter 2051. Jingyu, Xiao Chun, and the others really did arrive at the Mo family's mansion. It was a spacious courtyard. Jingyu looked at the door with some fear. Miaojiang was famous for its goo worms. Now, they had entered a nest of goo worms. They wouldn't be swallowed alive, right? Jingyu took a deep breath. Looking at Qinggu beside her, she inexplicably calmed down. Jingyu was clearly thinking too much. Mo Ruhua called Jingyu and the others over and treated them with respect. It was as if they were playing in the courtyard. Jingyu didn't even see half of the other big shots of the Mo family. After playing around, she went back. However, Jingyu didn't know that the moment Jingyu left, Mo Ruhua was taken away by the Mo family's patriarch. Father, they're my friends, Mo Ruhua said in a firm tone. Nonsense. Can't you see? They aren't from Miaojiang at all. The middle-aged man, sitting on the high seat, shouted angrily. So what? It's my freedom to make friends. Mo Ruhua turned her head and said stubbornly, How dare you? Have you forgotten all the things I gave you? You're going to marry the eldest young master. In the future, you will be the patriarch's wife. Also, if you don't fix your face, don't even think about leaving the house. The middle-aged man shouted angrily. Do you think I don't know that you have poisoned yourself? The middle-aged man stood up and looked at the woman. I won't marry. Mo Ruhua didn't even think about it as she stubbornly tilted her head and said, How dare you? You don't even listen to my orders. Men, take the young miss away. Without my orders, she is not allowed to take half a step out of the mansion. The middle-aged man ordered without any trace of politeness. Mo Ruhua's eyes widened. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. Father, what right do you have to lock me up? Mo Ruhua shouted loudly, but it was to no avail. After Mo Ruhua was taken away, the middle-aged man sighed deeply. He turned to the guard beside him and asked, "Have you investigated the identities of those people?" "Not yet, but I know that he's from the northern border." The guard frowned deeply as he replied, "Northern frontier?" The middle-aged man frowned deeply and said, "Send someone to keep an eye on him. The eldest young master will wake up in a few days. Nothing can go wrong." "Yes, I understand." Jingyu didn't know anything about what had happened in the Mo clan. At this moment, Jingyu was lying on a soft couch in the inn with a frown on her face. "What are you thinking about?" Xiao Chen looked at Jingyu with raised eyebrows and asked Jingyu, "What are you thinking about?" "Feng Ling hasn't come to find us yet," Jingyu said seriously. And then, Xiao Chen raised his eyebrows and asked, Jingyu pursed her lips and said seriously, "Let's go and kill that eldest young master." Xiao Chen was stunned when he heard Jingyu's words. He frowned and asked hesitantly, "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." Jingyu seemed to have made up her mind. She quickly stood up and looked at Xiao Chen seriously. "If we kill that eldest young master, won't Feng Yu become the only successor?" "If that's the case, it'll be much simpler," Jingyu said seriously. Xiao Chen thought about it carefully and nodded silently. Chapter 2052. That seemed to be the case. "Okay." Xiao Chen nodded calmly. Jingyu quickly got up and said, "There's no time to lose. Let's do it tonight." "Okay." Xiao Chen was silent for a moment before he agreed again. Then, "Ninth sister, what did you say? What are you going to do tonight?" Qinggu, third Xing, and the others widened their eyes in shock when they heard what Jingyu and Xiao Chen were going to do. Their faces were full of disbelief, which made Jingyu twitch her mouth silently. Were they that surprised? "Stop talking nonsense. Give me all of your goo repellents," Jingyu said calmly. "No way." Qinggu hugged his bag and said, "It's too dangerous for you to go like this. We need to think about this at length." "What's there to think about?" Jingyu twitched her mouth in disdain and said, "Why didn't I think of this earlier? We should have gone straight to Feng Yu's place and killed the eldest young master. It seems like Feng Yu is the only successor. Unless that whatever clan leader doesn't want his daughter anymore, he wouldn't have gone all the way to find Feng Yu." Jingyu said seriously, "If that's the case, it doesn't seem to matter if we kill the eldest young master." After everyone heard Jingyu's words, they frowned deeply, as if they had thought of something. They frowned helplessly. Why did they feel that what she said made sense? But they also felt that something was wrong. Jingyu didn't care what Qinggu thought. She only had one sentence. If he didn't give it to her, she would go directly. How could Qinggu not care about Jingyu and Xiao Chen's life? He could only agree. After Jingyu and Xiao Chen prepared the things, they left through the back door of the inn. They asked Qinggu and the others to stay in the inn and not go anywhere. "Sir Qinggu, is it really okay for them to go to the clan like this?" Qinggu was obviously worried. She sat in the room and looked at Qinggu as she asked. "Maybe." Qinggu sighed deeply. Why were Xiao Chen and Jingyu so worrisome? How good would it be if Feng Ling were here? They could discuss their next move. However, Jingyu and Xiao Chen did whatever they wanted to do. Look at this. It was completely impossible to stop them. When the sky turned dark, Jingyu and Xiao Chen arrived at the clan. In Jingyu's words, this was the place where the big boss lived. This was the palace. But now, in Jingyu's eyes, this was more like an exquisite castle. "This house is really beautiful." Jingyu looked at the magnificent loft in front of her. She squatted on a tree and said deeply, "Do you like it?" Xiao Chen looked at Jingyu and asked, "It's okay." Jingyu replied faintly. Then she said, "Let's go explore and see who this legendary young master is." "Okay," Xiao Chen replied calmly. "Let's go our separate ways. When we're done, we'll meet here again," Jingyu said to Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen frowned unhappily. Then, as if he thought of something, he nodded slowly. Jing Yu and Xiao Chun turned and left. The two of them slipped into the house and hid from everyone's sight. There were quite a lot of guards here. Jing Yu saw a small courtyard. Just as she was about to go over, she heard voices. The content of these words made Jing Yu's lips curl into a faint smile. Chapter 2053. Is that person still inside? Yes, he hasn't woken up yet. Sigh, it's been so long. Is he really all right? I don't know. This isn't something we can control. Let's go. Jing Yu could hear some interesting and joyful words in this short conversation. She frowned slightly and turned to look at the courtyard where the few people had left. She turned around and silently crept over. Jing Yu took a look at the door and took out some medicinal powder. She sprinkled it on her shoes and legs before entering the room. Jing Yu could vaguely hear voices, but she didn't dare to get close. She could only look at the situation from afar. There was indeed someone lying down, but she couldn't see his face clearly. Jing Yu's eyes turned and her heart was filled with doubt. Could it be that the person lying down was the legendary eldest young master? No way. How could Jing Yu find him so easily? Jing Yu wanted to take a closer look, but just as she was about to move, she heard a rustling sound. Jing Yu saw a small snake slithering around her feet. Jing Yu looked at this scene and her hair stood on end. She stared at the small snake with her pitch-black eyes and silently swallowed her saliva. She waved her hand. Damn guy. Hurry up and leave. The small snake stared at Jing Yu. Jing Yu was so nervous that she didn't dare breathe. There was only one thought in her mind. Chingu, you have to be more reliable. Will this medicine work? Jing Yu and the small snake stared at each other in the corner. Jing Yu waved her hand and signaled for the snake to leave. Finally, just as Jing Yu was extremely nervous, the small snake circled around Jing Yu's shoes and shook its head before leaving. Why did Jing Yu feel that the small snake was very happy? Happy? Was she hallucinating? Jing Yu now knew that her pupils had disappeared, didn't they? Why do I have such a strange feeling? Jing Yu silently shook her head and didn't take it seriously. She turned around and slipped out of the room. She didn't dare to stay any longer and quickly returned to the place where she had parted with Xiao Chun. What Jing Yu didn't know was that, after Jing Yu left, Jing Yu's position was immediately discovered. A guard looked around curiously and saw the little snake curled up in the corner. He frowned. What's wrong? Someone asked from behind. I'm fine. The guard glanced at the little snake and responded. Doubt flashed through his heart. Was he hallucinating? Why did he feel that there was someone here just now? After another careful look, there was indeed nothing. Only then did the guard turn around and leave, but he didn't see the little snake. After seeing the guard leave, it disdainfully crawled out of the house and into the grass, disappearing without a trace. Jing Yu and Xiao Chun met again. The two of them hid in the tree and discussed some things. They divided the three important courtyards and believed that the eldest young master was in one of them. How about this? I'll go kill the people and you attract their attention. Jing Yu looked at Xiao Chun and said, make some noise and lure them away. I'll take the opportunity to kill them. It will take a long time. Xiao Chun, you must be careful. Okay. Xiao Chun looked at Jing Yu and nodded slowly. He said, I'll help you buy time. You be careful too. Okay. Jing Yu responded with a smile. Chapter 2054. Xiao Chun caressed Jing Yu's hair and kissed Jing Yu's forehead. Be careful. Jing Yu's eyes flashed with a warm smile. She smiled at Xiao Chun and left. Under the cover of the dark night, Jing Yu silently searched for the three courtyards. These three courtyards were so heavily guarded that Jing Yu could be said to be extremely careful before entering. She wasn't afraid of alerting the guards, but she was afraid of being targeted by the poisonous creature in the dark. Therefore, before Jing Yu set off, she sprinkled a pile of powder on her body. Then, she walked into the house. Halfway through, she heard ambiguous sounds. The sounds made Jing Yu stop at her tracks. So, there were so many guards just to let someone have an affair. The corners of Jing Yu's mouth twitched violently. She listened to these ambiguous sounds and walked around the room. When she did not find anything, she suddenly felt that she could not hold herself back from listening to these sounds. Jingyu cursed in her heart and turned to leave. Jingyu looked at the courtyard. She thought that the suspicion of this courtyard could be eliminated. She didn't know which of the two would be the next. Jingyu was about to make a move when she heard a loud shout from the loft. "Assassin! Catch the assassin!" The noise was so loud that it immediately attracted the attention of the guards. The guards were immediately drawn over, and the person who was having sex in the room was startled awake. Jingyu smiled. Looking at the situation, the person who made such a big noise must be Xiao Chun. Jingyu said that it was to attract attention. But now, looking at Xiao Chun, it seemed that he wanted to attract all the guards in the clan. This man, Jingyu sighed helplessly. She didn't stay any longer and quickly ran to the other two courtyards. The guards were all running, but Jingyu strangely saw that the person in one of the courtyards was extremely calm. It was noisy all around, but only this courtyard was so quiet. However, there were very few guards in this courtyard. Jingyu stopped in her tracks. For some reason, Jingyu felt that this courtyard wasn't simple. With this thought in mind, Jingyu landed on a tree trunk. However, just as Jingyu was about to stop, she saw the cold, poisonous snake hidden in the leaves. Jingyu was shocked. When she landed, she saw the centipede and her shoes hidden in the soil. Jingyu quickly flew up and landed on a rock. She stood stiffly and didn't dare to make the slightest movement. Jingyu frowned deeply. She looked at the movement below with a deep look in her eyes. This courtyard was the most secure one in the clan. There weren't any guards inside, but these densely packed, poisonous creatures. Jingyu's eyes were cold. She seemed to have thought of something. She took out a jade bottle and sprinkled the water on her shoes and body. Then, Jingyu jumped lightly and landed on the ground. When she lowered her head, she saw that the poisonous creatures had all drilled out. Then, as if they had smelled something pungent, they drilled back into the ground. Chapter 2055. Jingyu heaved a sigh of relief when she saw this scene. She carefully moved into the house. The courtyard was very small and looked very simple. When Jingyu's body flashed into the house, she happened to see two people walking out of the house. As long as eldest young master safely survives the night, he will wake up. The leader was an old man. Beside the old man, a middle-aged man walked out. When he heard the old man's words, he seemed very happy and nodded his head in agreement. "Thank you for your hard work. If my son wakes up, you will be my great benefactor." The middle-aged man said emotionally, "Lord Clan Leader, it's still too early to say these things. Let's wait until eldest young master wakes up." That old man, on the other hand, did not seem to care at all. With such a noble and virtuous appearance, the person who was addressed as the clan leader was actually not the least bit angry. Jingyu hid in a dark corner and watched the group of people leave. She already understood in her heart that the middle-aged man was the legendary Lord Clan Leader, Fengyu's father. Jingyu faintly narrowed her eyes. She hid in the same spot and did not move. After those people sent the old man out, the clan leader ordered people to guard him well. After waiting for a long time, he stood up and walked out of the house. The surroundings descended into a strange silence. Jingyu's petite body, which had been hiding stiffly, finally moved. The interior of the house did not appear to be anything unusual. However, when one turned to the inner room, one could see two guards guarding the wooden door. Jingyu was silent for a moment. She raised her hand and tidied her clothes. Instantly, she took off the mask on her face and walked out. She frowned and said, "Are the two of you on duty today?" "Huh." When the two guards saw Jingyu appear, they reflexively took out their knives. However, when they heard Jingyu's question, they immediately widened their eyes in shock and looked at Jingyu strangely. "What? You don't know me?" Jingyu smiled brightly at the two of them and said, "It's okay. I don't know you." As Jingyu spoke, she had already closed in on the two people. At the instant she finished speaking, Jingyu suddenly threw a punch, and the heavenly silkworm silk in her hand slid out. The two people standing there did not even understand what was going on, and they were still puzzled. Who was Jingyu? Why did she appear? Before they could understand these thoughts, their throats were instantly cut. They did not even have a chance to say a word. Jingyu gently leaned the two guards against the wall A man. Man. Jingyu's gaze fell on the man's face. She walked slowly towards him. The man's cheeks were sunken and his face was dark. Jingyu's heart trembled slightly. Why did Jingyu suddenly think of zombies when she looked at this man? Was this the legendary eldest young master? Jingyu looked at the man. Then, she looked at the bulging blue veins on the eldest young master's arm. It looked like something was wriggling in the blood vessels. TSK. That's really scary. Jingyu retracted her gaze. She slowly pulled out the wild silk in her hand. She narrowed her eyes at the sleeping man and said, "Don't blame me. Who asked you to block my way? If you don't die, I won't be able to play anymore." Chapter 2056. Jingyu's cold words were merciless. The silk thread in her hand was wrapped around the man's neck, and Jingyu's eyes turned colder. Just as Jingyu was about to make a move, she saw the man's fingers twitch slightly, as if he was about to wake up. Jingyu's face turned cold, and without any hesitation, she reached out and pulled. The heavenly silk thread directly slit the man's throat. The man's hand had just moved a little, but he fell silent again. Jingyu neatly retracted the heavenly silk thread. Seeing that the eldest young master was no longer breathing, the goo worm that was wriggling on the eldest young master's arm suddenly became restless. Jingyu saw this scene, and her eyes widened in shock. She seemed to have thought of something, and her face changed. Without a second thought, she turned and ran out of the room. As she rushed out, she put on the mask on her face. Just as Jingyu rushed out, the guards at the door heard the commotion and rushed over. Jingyu's face turned cold, and the heavenly silk thread in her hand looked like she was harvesting rice. Jingyu did not dare to stay any longer and turned to leave. Not long after Jingyu left, she saw countless guards rushing in. Then, she heard the clan leader's furious shout, "Juna, who is it? Who is it?" Jingyu did not have the slightest bit of appreciation for his crazed look. The clan was in a complete mess. Jingyu hurriedly went to meet up with Xiao Chun, but the eldest young master's death had caused too much trouble. The clan was sealed off in an instant. Jingyu cursed in her heart and hurriedly turned to the other side. As she ran over the house, she saw Xiao Chun running from afar and was stunned. "Xiao Chun." Jingyu stopped in her tracks and looked behind Xiao Chun. Then, she turned to look behind her, and the corners of her mouth twitched violently. "Let's go." Xiao Chun pulled Jingyu and ran towards the clan. In an instant, they jumped down from the roof. When they saw a room with candles lit, they rushed in without a second thought. The two of them rushed into the room, and when they raised their heads, they saw the frightened gaze of a servant girl. Beside her was a petite girl wearing a coat. "Fengyu." Jingyu's eyes widened when she saw this person. This familiar face, who else could it be but Fengyu? When Fengyu saw Jing and Xiao Chun, she was stunned. Without a second thought, she raised her hand to cover the servant girl's mouth and knocked her unconscious. Jingyu and Xiao Chun saw Feng's action and was instantly stunned. Coming quickly, Fengyu hurriedly called for Jingyu and Xiao Chun to come in. She quickly walked to the soft couch and a flower pot at the side. Then, she lifted the wooden plank for Jingyu and Xiao Chun to hide inside. "Will you be okay like this?" Jingyu asked worriedly when she hid in the room. "I have a way." Fengyu didn't want to be long-winded with Jingyu. She reached out and took the dagger from Jingyu's waist. Then, she covered the wooden plank and moved the things properly. Then, she stood up and dragged the servant girl to the side of the door. She killed the servant girl with one stab, then turned around and stabbed herself in the shoulder. She pulled out the dagger and threw it to the side. The moment she fell to the ground, the door to the courtyard was knocked open. "Miss!" The guards who came in widened their eyes in horror when they saw this scene. Chapter 2057. Quick! Protect the young miss. The guards quickly rushed over and surrounded Fengyu. Fengyu covered her wound and fell to the ground. She shouted in panic, "Don't worry about me." Quickly chase after them. They ran in that direction. Fengyu hurriedly said. When the guards heard this, they quickly led their men out. Fengyu stood up with the help of several guards. When the patriarch heard the commotion, he also rushed out. His face was filled with fear. Are you okay? Tang Yuanla, the clan leader of Nanjiang, had just lost a son a few minutes ago. If something were to happen to his only daughter, Tang Yuanla would definitely go crazy. Seeing Feng Yu in such a state, he quickly rushed over. Father, Feng Yu called out weakly. She said, "Who is it? How dare they break into our clan?" Xiao He was eager to save the master and block death for me. If it wasn't for Xiao He, Father wouldn't be able to see me now. Thank goodness. Tang Yuanla sighed deeply. He looked at Feng Yu with a look of relief. Give this maid a proper burial. Tang Yuanla waved his hand and called for a doctor. It's not safe here. Follow me to the front yard. Tang Yuanla said while supporting Feng Yu. Okay. Feng Yu lowered her head and obediently responded. She really followed Tang Yuanla. These guards looked inside the house and were about to carefully inspect it when they heard a sound coming from the front. When they heard that the assassin was in the front yard, all the soldiers immediately ran away like a swarm of bees. Jingyu and Xiao Chan hid in the narrow cellar and listened to the movements outside. When the sounds outside the cellar disappeared, Jingyu sighed deeply. She reached out to push the wooden board, but found that she couldn't move it. What do we do? Jingyu stared at Xiao Chan and asked. Wait. Xiao Chan seemed very calm. Since Feng Yu dared to hide us here, she must have a backup plan. Xiao Chan leaned back and said, I just didn't expect Feng Yu to be so bold. Okay. Jingyu looked at Xiao Chen's calm appearance and slowly breathed a sigh of relief. She arched her eyebrows and said, This Feng Yu has been ruthless since she was young. Now that she's grown up, it's more comfortable to look at her. She knows her situation now. Xiao Chen replied. Just as Jingyu and Xiao Chan were talking, they heard a sound from outside. The sound of the door opening, they heard a maid's voice. Big brothers, please open the door. When Jingyu and Xiao Chan heard the sound, they immediately tensed up, hearing the footsteps approaching and the sound of something moving above their heads. Jingyu and Xiao Chan saw the wooden board open and a little girl's head pop out. Young Miss asked me to let the two of you out. The maid carefully looked around and helped open the hole. Then, she looked at Jingyu and Xiao Chan and helped them up. Only then did she breathe a sigh of relief and return the room to its original state. Young Miss asked me to give this to you. The maid took out a letter and said, Please wait here for a moment. Once this servant distracts the people outside, the two of you can take the opportunity to escape. Thank you. Jingyu reached out to take the envelope and said with her head bowed, This servant wants to thank the two of you. The maid bowed and said. Chapter 2058. If it weren't for the two of you, I don't know what Miss would have done in the future. The maidservant bowed respectfully and casually picked up a few sets of clothes. She bowed slightly to Jingyu and Xiao Chan before walking out. She just walked out of the courtyard when she suddenly screamed. The two guards at the door heard the noise and hurriedly ran out. Jingyu and Xiao Chan also took this opportunity to run out. He ran away without looking back. By the time he ran out of the clan's territory, the sky outside had already brightened. After a night full of danger, a piece of news swept through the entire city in the morning. The eldest son of the clan leader, the eldest son of the southern Xinjiang, was assassinated last night. Even the miss of the southern Xinjiang was injured. When this news spread, the entire southern Xinjiang was in an uproar. In an instant, all kinds of discussions were heard. Jingyu sat in the inn, frowning slightly as if she had thought of something. She calmly turned her head slightly. Shiwu, go and spread the rumor that the death of the eldest son was the work of the people of the northern Xinjiang. As for how to spread the rumor, you don't need me to teach you, right? Jingyu toyed with the teacup in her hand and smiled at Shiwu as she asked. Yes, your subordinate understands. Shiwu bowed and acknowledged. When he turned to leave, Qingge turned his head with a conflicted expression and looked at Jingyu. He asked, Ninth sister-in-law, can't you just stay put? Didn't Feng Ling tell us to wait? Qingge really wanted to cry. He was so worried last night that he couldn't sleep. In the middle of the night, Feng Ling came looking for him. When she heard that Jingyu and Xiao Chan had gone to kill the eldest son, she was so angry that she almost flipped the table. Then she rushed out angrily. When the sun rose, she saw Xiao Chun and Jingyu walking back leisurely. Without saying a word, they went into the room and fell asleep. Feng Ling came again, but was blocked outside by Xing San and Xing Shiwu. She didn't even see Jingyu and Xiao Chen's faces and left angrily again. Before she left, she specially reminded Qingge not to let Jingyu and Xiao Chen cause trouble again. However, it was now afternoon. Jingyu and Xiao Chun had just woken up, and they were already stirring up trouble again. Qingge sat on a chair with a hopeless expression. Jingyu looked at Qingge and smiled happily. Is that so? Qingge hung his head helplessly. Under these circumstances, if Jingyu splashed dirty water on Beijiang, a war would break out almost instantly. It was obvious that Jingyu had this idea in mind. Jingyu and Xiao Chun were leisurely eating and drinking, but there was a huge commotion in the clan. The rumor about Beijiang in the city instantly turned the clan upside down. Coincidentally, Madame Ye found out that Qing Shui's corpse was fake and heard about the people around Moruhua. When these bits and pieces of information reached Madame Ye's ears, Madame Ye couldn't hold herself back. He immediately ordered his men to enter the southern border to investigate the situation. If this was in the past, they could come to Nanjiang if they wanted. As long as they didn't violate Nanjiang's rules, the people of Nanjiang would turn a blind eye. However, things were different now. The eldest young master of Nanjiang actually died just as Beijiang was about to arrive. Chapter 2059. How could Tang Yuanle not be suspicious when the rumors outside said that the people from the northern frontier were the culprits? Tang Yuanle flew into a rage inside one of the clan's lofts and immediately gave the order to kill the person from the northern frontier. This action was undoubtedly a declaration of war against the northern frontier, but Madame Ye saw another layer of meaning behind this action. She only sent someone to investigate, but the person was killed by the people from the southern frontier. Did this mean that the people from the southern frontier were protecting someone and didn't want to be discovered by her? Madame Ye's expression changed drastically when she thought of this. The war between the southern frontier and the northern frontier was inexplicably provoked just like that. The instigators, Jingyu and Xiao Chun, were currently in the inn listening to Third Xing's report. Their eyes were full of smiles. If they knew things would be so simple, they would have killed that eldest young master long ago. Master, Madam, Sect Leader Feng is here. As soon as Xing San's voice fell, the tightly shut door was kicked open by a pair of large feet. Oh, isn't this Feng Ling? Long time no see. Jingyu looked at Feng Ling, whose face was filled with anger, and her eyebrows instantly curled up in delight as she said with a smile, "Look at what you've done." Feng Ling fiercely threw a stack of papers in front of Jingyu and Xiao Chun. She looked like she had nowhere to vent her anger, which made Jingyu smile faintly. "You're quite well informed, aren't you? The southern frontier is sending out troops?" Jingyu exclaimed as she looked at the stack of papers filled with intelligence. Jingyu sighed emotionally. "What you're doing will only make things worse." Feng Ling was about to explode from anger. "Worse?" Jingyu threw the papers in her hand away in disdain and looked up at Feng Ling. "How could you not know whether what I'm doing is good or bad? To put it bluntly, you're just not ready to let Feng Yu take over the southern frontier." "You?" Feng Ling's expression changed when she heard Jingyu's words. "You still have a chance now. After all, nothing happened to the clan elder. If you didn't want Feng Yu to interfere, why did you call her back in the first place?" Jingyu's words were very cold, but they were like a basin of cold water that directly extinguished Feng Ling's anger. If you want things to be simpler, as long as something happens to the old clan leader, Feng Yu will naturally be able to take over as the new clan leader. Jingyu stood up and said, "This is the choice that Feng Yu will have to face." Feng Ling, Feng Ling's words, Feng Ling, Feng's words as words. How could Feng Ling's Feng Yu's words as Feng Ling's? This was all Feng Yu's choice. What exactly was Feng Yu thinking in her heart? It wouldn't take long for them to know the result. In the end, Jingyu did not misjudge Feng Yu. In just one day, there were earth-shattering changes in the clan. The clan leader suddenly fell ill, and all the burdens of the southern border suddenly pressed on Feng Yu's shoulders. Feng Yu was sobbing uncontrollably and refused to accept it. She said that her father was seriously ill and her brother was mourning, so she definitely could not take over the position of clan elder. The elders in the clan were very touched and persuaded her in every way possible. Only then did Feng Yu become the acting clan elder and manage the clan's affairs. At the same time, she was fully responsible for the war between the southern frontier and the northern frontier. Chapter 2060. Jingyu clicked her tongue when she heard the news. This sealing jade is really not an ordinary kind of powerful. Jingyu smiled delightedly. We can set off for Beijiang now. The Beijiang clan leader's wedding is about to begin, right? Jingyu blinked and looked at them. Then, she asked delightedly, "Why are you all looking at me like that? Ninth sister-in-law, I'm suddenly wondering how you do it. No matter where you go, you're always able to cause bloodshed." Chinga looked deeply at Jingyu as he asked this. "It's probably because I'm a huge scourge. Ha 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 ha." Jingyu laughed delightedly. Everyone was speechless. While they were still laughing and joking around in the inn, an unexpected person arrived. When the people in the inn saw this person, they were all stunned. Feng Yu? Jingyu, who was sitting on a chair, pursed her lips stiffly when she saw Feng Yu. "Long time no see." Feng Yu smiled faintly at Jingyu and Xiao Chun. "Ninth, madam." Ha ha ha. Jingyu's lips stiffened when she heard Feng Yu's greeting. "These are my friends. I'm also the one who told you that I'm looking for helpers this time. What do you think, great elder?" Feng Yu turned to an old man beside her as she spoke. The old man looked at Jingyu, Xiao Chun, and the others with a strange expression. However, he still frowned and agreed in the end. Jingyu followed Feng Yu into the clan in a daze. What made Jingyu speechless was that the so-called great elder in front of her was very disdainful of Jingyu and the others. His eyes were full of suspicion. Only then did he walk through the main gate of the clan. However, he bumped into Imo Ruhua, who was walking towards him. Wait! Originally, Imo Ruhua was walking with her head down. She looked at the people in plain clothes and thought that they were here to offer their condolences. However, her eyes widened in surprise when she saw Jingyu and Xiao Chun. Then, without even thinking, he stepped forward bravely and stood in front of the Jade Seal. "Acting clan leader, these people are my daughter's friends. May I know why they were brought into the clan?" Imo Ruhua bowed slightly to Feng Yu and asked nervously. Looking at her anxious appearance, it was as if she was standing up for Jingyu and the others. "Oh." Feng Yu looked at Imo Ruhua, then looked at Jingyu, Xiao Chun, and the others behind her and smiled casually. "These people offended me. Miss Imo, are you going to stand up for them?" Feng Yu said calmly. When Imo Ruhua heard Feng Yu's words, her eyes widened. She looked at Jingyu and the others and bit her lips tightly. "Acting clan leader, what do you want me to do for you to let them go?" Imo Ruhua's words frightened not only Feng Yu, but also Jingyu, Xiao Chun, and the others. "Ha!" Feng Yu immediately laughed. She looked indifferently at Imo Ruhua and said, "Since Miss Imo has said so, I will give you face and represent your Imo clan. Come with me to the north. If you agree, I will let them go." "What?" Imo Ruhua's eyes widened in shock. "What? You don't want to?" Jingyu squinted her eyes and said calmly, "If I remember correctly, in the last samurai competition, you were the champion and had the title of samurai, right?" Chapter 2061. Now that Nanjiang is in trouble, Miss Imo isn't willing to go out. Imo Ru doesn't dare. Imo Ruhua lowered her head and said, "Oh, that's right." Feng Yu calmly walked closer to Imo Ruhua and said, "Now that my elder brother is dead, your engagement with him is naturally invalid. Your face, it's about time you recovered. Also, Imo Ru is a good name. What's your name, Ruhua?" Feng Yu stood up with a smile and said seriously, "The order will be given tomorrow. Thank you, Miss Imo, for coming to mourn elder brother. I won't send you off." Then Imo Ruhua sighed deeply. Seeing that Feng Yu was still going to take them away, she anxiously called out, These people will stay in the clan temporarily. After all, I don't know if Miss Mo will go back on her words. Feng Yu smiled like a fox. Mo Ruhua heard Feng Yu's words and was so angry that her face turned ashen. However, she still shouted at Jing Yu and the others, "Don't worry, I won't leave you guys behind. Miss Mo, thank you." This time, Jing Yu thanked her sincerely. They approached her with ulterior motives, but Mo Ruhua treated them so sincerely. Jing Yu was a bit surprised and embarrassed. Jing Yu and Xiao Chun were settled down. Jing Yu looked at the familiar building and felt that it was very fun. A few days ago, she was being chased up and down. Now, she was being treated as a guest and was staying here. The world was so big, there were all kinds of strange things. "Tell me, what do you want to do next?" Feng Yu was very straightforward. She changed into a set of very complicated foreign clothes, which made Feng Yu seem a lot more noble. Looking at Feng Yu's mature face, Jing Yu jokingly smiled. "Nothing. Aren't we here to help you unify Miaojiang?" Jing Yu propped up her chin and looked at Feng Yu. "Are you dead?" Feng Yu stared at Jing Yu for a while, and suddenly said in a serious tone, "Stupid girl, do you know how to speak?" This madam fell asleep, fainted. When Jing Yu heard Feng Yu's words, she was instantly fuming. She raised her hand and knocked Feng Yu's head. Feng Yu hugged her head with an aggrieved expression. "Didn't I hear it from outside? They said that the 9th imperial concubine died in childbirth. If it wasn't for the fact that I couldn't leave, I would have paid my respects to you," Feng Yu said seriously. Jing Yu's mouth twitched. "Stop talking nonsense. What do you want to do now?" Jing Yu curled her lips in disdain. She looked around and asked, "Is it really okay to bring us in so brazenly? What's the problem?" Feng says, "S. Let's talk tea. S. What's your plan?" Tell what? S plan, tease. It'd be great if he could really kill you," Feng Yu said indifferently. "You heartless." Jing Yu sat down quietly. She looked at Feng Yu and said, "We have to resolve this before the Beijiang clan leader's wedding. If we can't make it in time, then we'll just do it on the wedding day. We'll snatch the bride." "Steal who?" Feng Yu's lit up. Chapter 2062. Of course it's to snatch the groom. Jing Yu replied very seriously. Feng Yu was stunned when she heard that. She looked at Jing Yu strangely and said, "Why the groom? Don't tell me you and the 9th emperors." Feng Yu looked at Jing Yu in surprise, her eyes full of curiosity. She looked as if she wanted to see if Jing Yu had a falling out with Xiao Chun. "What are you thinking about?" Jing Yu didn't know whether to laugh or cry when she heard that. She stared at Feng Yu and said, "I'm helping Qing Shui snatch the groom. I'm not helping myself." "Madam." Qing Shui blushed when she heard Jing Yu's words. She looked at Jing Yu shyly and said, "You're shy," Jing Yu said with a smile. She turned to Feng Yu and said, "How about it? Are you interested? What do you think?" Feng Yu looked at Jing Yu from the corner of her eyes. Her face was full of interest. She calmly said, "Didn't you do so much just to get me to do this? Of course, I won't disappoint you." "Don't be so heartless." Jing Yu straightened up calmly and said, "I need your help." Feng Yu looked at Jing Yu and calmly raised her eyebrows. There was a faint smile in her eyes as she said, "Don't worry. I've wanted to unify Miaojiang for a long time." "Then what are we going to do now?" Feng Yu asked curiously. "Pack up and go snatch the groom." Jing Yu nodded seriously. "Really snatch?" Jing Yu frowned and asked hesitantly, "Could it be fake?" Jing Yu answered seriously. Qing Gu, Xiao Chun, and the other men heard the conversation between Jing Yu and Feng Yu and frowned. Did they not consider that there were a few other men here? After Feng Yu left, Xiao Chun and Jing Yu sat in their original positions. The room was very quiet and no one disturbed them. Feng Yu was really calm. She brought Jing Yu and Xiao Chun in and treated them like this, and no one noticed anything. It was really fun. Jing Yu originally thought that Feng Yu would be very anxious because she had stirred up Nanjiang so quickly. However, she didn't expect Feng Yu to be so powerful. She had been in Nanjiang for so long, and she had cultivated so many forces. Otherwise, how could she have directly taken control of Nanjiang in such a tense situation. Nanjiang looked like it was in a mess, but if one looked closely, they would discover that everything in Nanjiang was extremely orderly. Jingyu nodded calmly at the scene in front of her. Fengyu really had some ability. With such a big thing happening in the southern border, she was still able to stabilize the situation in such a short time. Jingyu and Xiao Qin's arrival didn't seem to alarm anyone. After Xiao Qun and Jingyu confirmed Fengyu's plan, they immediately sped up. Xiao Qun, it's time to contact Xiao Bai. Jingyu stood in front of the window. She was dressed in a dark blue robe and looked somewhat bleak. She looked at the distant sky and was slightly absent-minded. They had been waiting and struggling for too long. Jingyu could not wait any longer. Madame Nia had to die. Okay. When Xiao Qun heard Jingyu's words, he didn't hesitate and quietly looked at Jingyu. When he saw Jingyu's silent expression, he felt suffocated. Chapter 2063. There is one more thing that I haven't told you yet. Xiao Qun was silent for a moment. Then he turned to look at Jingyu and said, "In." When Jingyu heard Xiao Qin's words, she was slightly stunned and looked at Xiao Qin strangely. Xiao Qin walked to Jingyu's side and said very calmly, "I received news that Qin Bai is not dead." When Jingyu heard Xiao Qin's words, she didn't seem to be too surprised. Instead, she calmly gasped for a moment, then looked at Xiao Qun very seriously and asked, "Where is he?" Jingyu knew very well that since Xiao Qun mentioned Qin Bai, there must be something that he needed to tell her. Jingyu simply took the initiative to ask. Xiao Qun silently lowered his head and said, "In the year that you were asleep, I've been sending people to pay attention to Qin Bai's movements. But Qin Bai is very cunning. He seems to know that I'm monitoring him, so he's been constantly escaping." Xiao Qun frowned deeply and said, "When I was monitoring Qin Bai, I accidentally found the trace of another person." "Who?" When Jingyu heard Xiao Qin's words, she suddenly felt a very slight uneasiness. She frowned deeply and looked at Xiao Qun and asked, "Xiao Jingran." Xiao Qun slowly said a name that he hadn't heard for a long time. "He is still alive?" Jingyu widened her eyes in shock and asked Xiao Qun. "Yes." Xiao Qun nodded and said, "I found that Xiao Jingran and Miaojiang have some connections, but I don't know what they are planning. It seems like they're hiding something, but it seems like they have some plans." Jingyu fell silent after hearing Xiao Qin's words. Madame Ye, Qin Bai, Xiao Jingran. These three people appeared together at such an inopportune time. What was the relationship between them? Is there any connection between Qin Bai, Madame Ye, and Xiao Jingran? Jingyu suddenly asked. "No, Qin Bai seems to be hiding from us," Xiao Qun said. Jingyu frowned when she heard this. She looked into the distance and frowned. She turned to look at Xiao Qun and said, "I don't want to wait anymore. Let's do it." "All right." Xiao Qun nodded slowly. Everything that needs to be arranged in the Miao territory has been arranged. Everything that needs to be prepared has been prepared. Now that we have Fengyu's help, there is no need to hold back. Concentrate all our forces in the Miao territory. Send a request to Feng Maching, Su Yu, and the Dark Church. This time, let's make the northern frontier disappear. Jingyu sat down tiredly at the side. She looked up at Xiao Qun and said, "Negotiate with Hellion Theo. If the Northern Pastoral is willing to send troops, we're willing to agree to one of his requests." "I know." Xiao Qun looked at Jingyu and fell silent for a moment. Then, he looked at Jingyu and asked, "Are you really prepared? You want to use this method?" "MHM." Jingyu looked away indifferently and said, "I hope Madame Nian knows what's good for her. Otherwise, let the northern frontier be buried with her." Jingyu's words were indescribably cold-blooded and merciless. Under the setting sun, Jingyu and Xiao Qun sat by the window. Their words were earth-shattering. However, when they came out of their mouths, they were as calm as water without any color. Fengyu did not expect Jingyu to stain the Miao territory with blood like this. Perhaps this was the final outcome. Chapter 2064. Nanjiang's army set off with great momentum. Nanjiang's grand elder was the leader this time. Feng Yu, Mo Ruhua, and the others followed Xiao Chun and Jingyu. On the mountain path, Jingyu was speechless as she watched Feng Yu run like a wild horse. She was running like a madwoman. "This lady didn't take her medicine today, right?" Jingyu said with a frown. Everyone was silent. You're really friends with Tang Yu? Mo Ruhua clearly couldn't accept this fact. No, she shouldn't be called Mo Ruhua now. She should be called Mo Ru. The young lady in bright red clothes had an explosive figure. Her twin peaks attracted everyone's attention in an instant. Her face, which was originally difficult to look at, had now returned to its original delicate and pretty appearance. She couldn't be considered a beauty, but she wasn't ugly either. At this moment, Mo Ru was still frowning. She had been following Jingyu and the others for 3 days. When she saw how Jingyu and Feng Yu interacted, she frowned and glared at Jingyu and Xiao Chun. "Lady Mo, I've already repeated this dozens of times," Jingyu said with a deep sigh. "Mo Ru, didn't I say it already? Call me Feng Yu." Feng Yu glared at Mo Ru with disdain. "Tang Yu." Mo Ru glanced at Feng Yu and calmly repeated, "You damned ugly girl." Feng Yu was instantly enraged. This kind of scene had been playing out almost all the time in the past 3 days. Jingyu didn't know why at first, but now she knew. Tang was Feng Yu's father's surname, and Feng was Feng Yu's mother's surname. Feng Yu had refused to acknowledge her surname and had always followed her mother's surname. Now, that Mo Ru called Feng Yu that way, it naturally angered her. Jingyu watched the two of them bicker. She really wanted to know if Mo Ru was really stupid or smart enough not to ask. Along the way, Jingyu didn't avoid Mo Ru when talking to Feng Yu and the others. However, Mo Ru only seemed to care if Jingyu and Feng Yu were friends. She didn't care about Jingyu and Xiao Chen's identities at all. Jingyu was speechless. But since Mo Ru didn't ask, Jingyu couldn't be bothered to say anything. She only told 15 Xing to keep an eye on Mo Ru. "Mo, madam, why am I the one keeping an eye on her?" Interrogation 15th looked like he wanted to cry, but had no tears. When he saw Jing Yu's dark gaze, Interrogation 15th silently swallowed his unwillingness and followed Mo Ru with resignation. "Why do you keep following me?" Mo Ru stared at 15th Xing strangely. "I'm following Madam's orders to protect everyone's safety." 15th Xing glanced at Mo Ru. When he answered, he especially emphasized the words everyone, as if reminding Mo Ru that he wasn't following her. He was protecting everyone's safety. Tsh. Mo Ru turned her head disdainfully. "With such a small body, I think you can't even protect yourself. How can you protect others?" 15th Xing resisted the urge to chop someone up. Although he was ranked 15th, it was just a serial number. His martial arts weren't weak. But now, he was being looked down on by a weak girl. If it wasn't for Madam, 15th Xing would have already thrown up his sleeves and quit. Chapter 2065. Feng Yu, you just followed us here. What about Feng Ling? Jingyu, Xiao Chun, and the others found a place to rest when the sky turned dark. Jingyu asked Feng Yu, who was standing on a rock, as she watched 3rd Xing start a fire. Feng Yu seemed to be looking at the scenery outside. When she heard Jingyu's question, she immediately turned her head and asked with eyes full of confusion. "Oh, right. Didn't I leave a letter for Brother Ling?" Did you? Jingyu frowned and asked Feng Yu. I'm done for. I forgot to leave a letter for Brother Ling." Feng Yu jumped down from the rock with a face full of shock. She stared at Jingyu in horror and said, "Madam, what if Brother Ling thinks that I went missing? Do you think that Feng Ling is as stupid as you?" Jingyu heard Feng Yu's words and said with a twitch of her mouth, "Someone's coming." Just as Feng Yu was about to refute Jingyu's words, she suddenly saw Mo Ru, who was standing in the distance, suddenly speak. When everyone heard this, they immediately stood up and their hands unconsciously reached for their weapons. Jingyu and Xiao Chan both narrowed their eyes at the approaching figure and frowned in confusion. "Look at that person. Why do I feel that he looks so familiar?" Jingyu said as she rubbed her chin. "Yeah." Feng Yu also frowned and said, "Look at that face. He looks so much like Brother Ling. Feng Yu said in surprise. When Jingyu heard Feng Yu's words, she looked carefully and immediately clapped her hands. Aya, he really looks like Feng Ling. Xiao Chen, look. Doesn't he look like Feng Ling? Jingyu tugged on Xiao Chen's arm and said. For the first time, Xiao Chen really wanted to pry open Jingyu's head to see what was inside. Ninth sister-in-law. That's Feng Ling, right? Qingge looked at Jingyu and Feng Yu with a strange expression and said in a conflicted tone. Jingyu. Feng Yu. After a brief moment of sluggishness, the two of them saw with their own eyes the person approaching from afar. Who else could it be but Feng Ling on a fine steed? Feng Ling's expression could be said to be incomparably ugly. After he dismounted, his robes were covered in dust. From his exhausted appearance, one did not need to guess to know that this fellow must have rushed here day and night. Feng Ling, Jingyu called out in shock. Jingyu, you're really good. Feng Yu looked at Feng Ling. Jingyu took a deep breath. Look at Feng's expression, Fangs. Feng Yu, come over here. Feng Ling naturally had nothing to say to Jingyu. After taking a deep breath, she abruptly turned her head and looked at Feng Yu, who was already shrinking her body and about to run away. Feng Ling angrily shouted, Big Brother Ling. Feng Yu, who was about to run away, immediately froze. She looked at Feng Ling and called out in a conflicted tone. You still know that I'm your big brother? Feng Ling's eyes were fixed on Feng Yu. The expression in her eyes was incomparably cold, causing Feng Yu's entire body to tremble. She lowered her head deeply and did not dare to say a single word. Who gave you the guts to leave without telling me? Feng Ling stared at Feng Yu and pursed his lips. Chapter 2066. The deep anger in her eyes caused Feng Yu to silently lower her head. Mo Ru, who was standing to one side, saw this scene and immediately frowned. Without thinking, she reached out and shielded Feng Yu behind her. She looked at Feng Ling with vigilance and displeasure and shouted, Who are you? How dare you be rude to the clan leader? Jingyu and Xiao Chen were shocked by Mo Ru's actions and words. They did not expect Mo Ru to take the initiative to protect Feng Yu. However, after hearing Mo Ru's words, the corners of Jingyu's mouth twitched violently. Rude? The person who was rude to Feng Yu was clearly Mo Ru herself. Who am I? Feng Ling was so angry that she laughed. Her baby face stared at Mo Ru with amusement and said, Let your clan leader tell you who I am. Huh? When Mo Ru saw Feng Ling's reaction, a puzzled expression appeared in her eyes. She turned to look at Feng Yu. Feng Yu probably did not expect Mo Ru to protect her like this. When she heard the conversation between the two and turned to look at Feng Ling's dangerous gaze, she immediately looked aggrieved. He's my brother. Feng Yu pouted and said softly. What? Mo Ru's eyes widened as if she had seen a ghost. She looked at Feng Ling and then at Feng Yu. Suddenly, she felt that there were some similarities. The old clan leader's illegitimate son? Mo Ru swallowed her saliva in disbelief. She carefully approached Feng Yu and asked, Get lost. Feng Yu was instantly enraged when she heard this. She reached out and pushed Mo Ru away. She angrily said, This is my half-brother. His name is Feng Ling. Feng Yu said happily as she leaned on Feng Ling's arm. Humph. Feng Ling snorted coldly. Her expression was still extremely ugly. It was as if she did not want to bother with Feng Yu. She tried to shake Feng Yu off, but Feng Yu hugged Feng Ling's arm tightly and refused to let go. Mo Ru was completely stunned by this explosive news. Her expression changed as she looked at Feng Ling. How could Mo Ru not know about the matter of the clan leader's wife? But who would have thought that Feng Ling would actually return? Big Brother Ling, I was wrong. Feng Yu pitifully shook Feng Ling's hand and said, I know that Big Brother Ling is very strong. Look, I didn't tell you, but you were still able to find me. Feng Yu smiled fawningly at Feng Ling. You still dare to say that? Feng Ling was even angrier when she heard that. Ayaya, Brother Ling, don't be angry. When Feng Yu saw that Feng Ling was angry, She hugged Feng Ling's hand even tighter, as if she was afraid that Feng Ling would beat her up. Feng Ling really wanted to beat her up, but she couldn't break free from Feng Yu's hand. She frowned and looked at Feng Yu's pitiful appearance. In the end, she couldn't bear to do it. She glared at Feng Yu for a long time. Feng Yu tried to please her for a long time before Feng Ling finally calmed down. Is it necessary? The sky darkened and the bonfire rose. Jingyu saw that Feng Ling's anger had finally subsided. She touched the tip of her nose and said disdainfully, I haven't settled the score with you yet. Feng Ling had just suppressed her anger, but because of Jingyu's words, she became angry again. She looked coldly at Jingyu and said, How dare you bring my sister around so openly? Chapter 2067. Do you really think that I'm that easy to get along with? Feng Ling's eyes were filled with an intense coldness. Cough, cough, cough. Jingyu knew that Feng Ling was really angry these few times. She instantly shrank into Xiao Chen's embrace silently, not daring to say another word. Xiao Chen hugged Jingyu a little tighter and turned to look at Feng Ling. That pair of dark, calm eyes stared at Feng Ling without saying a word. His silence made Jingyu strangely feel that the surrounding atmosphere had become incomparably tense in an instant. Xiao Chen. Finally, Feng Ling couldn't hold it in anymore and shouted angrily. Xiao Chen was still as calm as ever. His hands that were hugging Jingyu didn't even tremble. Don't go overboard. You're protecting her like this. Feng Ling glared at Xiao Chen and shouted angrily. She's my wife, Xiao Chen replied calmly. What about me? Jingyu, who was still in Xiao Chen's embrace, suddenly froze when Feng Ling questioned him. Why did she seem to hear something strange in that questioning tone? Could it be Feng Ling had taken a liking to Xiao Chen? Jingyu silently left Xiao Chen's embrace and looked at Xiao Chen and Feng Ling strangely. What does that have to do with me? Xiao Chen said coldly to Feng Ling when he saw Jingyu leave his embrace, seemingly displeased. He reached out and pulled Jingyu back into his embrace again. Damn it, you want to protect your wife? What about my sister? Feng Ling looked at Xiao Chen's attitude and was about to explode in anger. That's your business, Xiao Chen replied calmly. Feng Ling instantly went crazy. Why did she feel like she couldn't communicate with him at all? When Qinggu, Mo Ru, and the others saw this scene, their eyes were filled with confusion. Among them, Mo Ru's expression was the strangest. She silently looked at the arrogant and despotic people and quietly said, Did I hear something I shouldn't have just now? Mo Ru looked carefully at the group and asked calmly, Did I? Qinggu blinked in confusion. What did they just say? I heard it too. Qing Shui said quietly. As she spoke, her gaze fell on Feng Ling, Xiao Chen, and the others. Her eyes were filled with conflict. So, you don't know either. When Mo heard Qing Shui's words, she suddenly heaved a sigh of relief and stared at Qing Shui. Yeah, I didn't notice it before. Qing Shui nodded in agreement. What are you guys talking about? Mo Ru and Qing Shui were talking back and forth, causing everyone to feel dizzy. They stared at the two of them strangely and asked. The two of them lowered their heads with great difficulty. Just now, young Master Feng Ling called Ninth Master, Xiao Chen. Qing Shui quietly asked, This Xiao Chen? Is he that Xiao Chen? Yes. Is this Xiao that Xiao? Mo Ru also asked with difficulty. It's probably the Xiao that you guys are talking about. Jingyu looked at the two confused people and frowned silently. Qinggu and Feng Yu were both confused. What are they talking about? What was this and that? Were there two Xiao Chen? Chapter 2068. SSS. Mo Ru and Jing Shui's eyes widened in horror when they heard this. They looked at Jingyu and Xiao Chen and exclaimed, It's really that Xiao. Maybe it is? Jingyu said quietly with her head lowered. Oh my god. Mo Ru stood up in surprise and strode toward Jingyu and Xiao Chen. When her eyes landed on Jingyu and Xiao Chen subconsciously shielded Jingyu and leaned back slightly. What are you doing? Jingyu asked strangely when she saw Mo Ru's reaction. Are you really the Tokyo's ninth emperor's and ninth imperial concubine? Immerse looked at Xiao Chun and Jingyu in surprise. Although Xiao Chun and Jingyu were wearing masks, Immerse's gaze was truly too passionate. It was as though she wanted to see through the masks. Can't I? Jingyu was a bit confused. Her and Xiao Chen's names had already spread to Miaojiang. That's not right. Didn't I hear that the imperial concubine died after giving birth? Didn't you? Immerse was pleasantly surprised. Then, as though she thought of something, she looked at Jingyu and Xiao Chen strangely. Jingyu pursed her lips silently. How should she explain this? Are you really the ninth emperor's and ninth imperial concubine? Jingyu walked over in surprise. She had been by Madame Nie's side for many years, so she was all too familiar with Xiao Chun and Jingyu's names. However, she never would have expected this. To think that they met in such a way. Now, Qing Shui also understood why Jingyu and Xiao Chen's group killed those Black Knights so decisively after hearing that they were Madame Nie's men. She also finally understood why they were so scheming to deal with Madame Nie. It turned out that they were the ninth emperor's and ninth imperial concubine. If Madame Nie knew that the ninth imperial concubine was still alive, I wonder what kind of expression she would have. Qing Shui took a deep breath. The expression in her eyes was so funny and seemed to have a hint of relief. We'll see what kind of expression she would have very soon. Jingyu's lips curved into a faint smile when she heard that. After a brief moment of shock, Qing Shui slowly recovered. After all, Qing Shui had many guesses about Jingyu and Xiao Chun. However, she never would have thought that Jingyu and Xiao Chun were actually the famous ninth emperor's and ninth imperial concubine. Compared to Qing Shui's calmness, Immerse wasn't calm at all. She stared at Jingyu and Xiao Chun as though she wanted to turn them into skeletons. Then, she asked all sorts of questions, causing Jingyu's lips to twitch violently. What do you want? Jingyu glared at Immerse, who was right in front of her. Look. Immerse looked at Jingyu with a smile and said, Since we know your identities now, why don't you consider taking off your masks? Let us see your true appearance. No. Jingyu rejected her without thinking. Why? Immerse immediately protested. I'm not even going to pursue the fact that you lied to me back then. Same here, Jingyu said bluntly with a smile. Didn't you also lie to me with that face of yours? No wonder you didn't care when so many people called you ugly. Chapter 2069. So, it's fake. When Immerse heard Jingyu's words, her shoulders slumped in dejection. I had no choice, Immerse said as if she had been wronged. She glared at Jingyu and said, I was poisoned by accident, but I didn't expect to meet someone after I was poisoned. That's why I did this. You're my elder brother, right? Yu said calmly. Everyone would be happy to see the daughter of the Immerse family become the wife of the clan head. That's true. Immerse lowered her eyes and said, I thought so too. After all, I grew up with the eldest young master. The eldest young master always treated me the same way. It wasn't until I grew up that he finally expressed his love for me. Yes. Yu glanced at Immerse and said, Unfortunately, the eldest young master cut off all contact with you after he found out about your disfigurement. TSK. This love is so cheap. Immerse seemed to have been poked in her sore spot. Her eyes became misty. None of the men in the Tang family are good. Yu's face was ice cold as she said, but what surprised me was that you didn't pester me. Instead, you continued to wear that ugly face of yours until now. Humph. Immerse curled her lips in disdain and said, I, Immerse, have seen men before. Why should I pester a man like him? Well said. Jingyu looked at how Immerse dared to hate and love, and her lips curled up in delight. Beside her, 15 Xing's eyes also lit up, and he smiled slowly, full of praise. It seems that I killed the eldest young master and saved your marriage from being dragged into politics. Jingyu said calmly with a faint smile in her eyes. What did you say? Immerse was still grieving when she heard Jingyu's words. Her face paled and she stared at Jingyu in fear and asked, You just said, you killed the eldest young master. Oh, I accidentally let it slip again? Jingyu blinked her eyes in confusion. See, Mo Ru's eyes widened. She turned her head and looked around. She found that everyone had the same expression. Only she was shocked. She was even more shocked. These people actually knew that the eldest young master was killed by Jingyu. What Mo Ru couldn't accept the most was Feng Yu's calm expression. Clan leader, you also know? Mo Ru asked with great difficulty. I know. Feng Yu blinked calmly and said, I was the one who hid them, and then sent them out safely. Feng Yu seemed to feel that this wasn't a big enough blow for Mo Ru, so she added. After she finished speaking, Mo Ru almost vomited blood. Why did Mo Ru suddenly feel like she had entered a vicious circle? Mo Ru hugged her head in silence, as if she was digesting the shock she received today. I know so much. You guys won't kill me to silence me, right? Mo Ru suddenly thought of a serious matter. She raised her head and looked at Jingyu and Xiao Chun. Everyone's faces darkened when they heard this. 15 Xing, drag her away. Jingyu took a deep breath and said. Chapter 2070. No need. When Jingyu heard Xiao Chen's words, she immediately shook her head and said, You'll find out eventually. Rest well for now. When Xiao Chen saw that Jingyu didn't seem to have any intention of pursuing the matter, he frowned helplessly. Wasn't she eager to know just now? Why didn't she want to know in the blink of an eye? As expected of a woman, he couldn't see through her. Xiao Chen calmly lowered his eyes and hugged Jingyu to sleep. Xing San and the others took turns to keep watch. Jingyu, Xiao Chen, and the others left quietly without alerting anyone. The journey was really smooth. Feng Ling's addition didn't change much. The next day, the group continued on their journey as usual. It's getting cold. Jingyu raised her head and frowned as she looked at the late autumn weather. Xiao Chen responded. Then, as if he had thought of something, he happily said, This year we're going to celebrate the new year as a family. When Jingyu heard Xiao Chen's words, she was clearly stunned. Then, as if she had thought of something, a dazed look appeared on her face. She turned to look at Xiao Chen gently and nodded. Okay. When Jingyu and Xiao Chen were talking, they heard a sharp voice. What are you doing? Jingyu was stunned. When she turned to look, she saw Mo Ru, who was looking at Xing 15 warily. Xing 15 looked at Mo Ru and urged his horse forward, putting some distance between them. This kind of situation had happened too many times in the past 2 days. Jingyu had no idea what had happened between the two of them. Mo Ru looked at Xing Shiwu with hostility and glared at Xing Shiwu as though she was afraid that Xing Shiwu would do something. Xing Shiwu only had to get a little closer to Mo Ru. Mo Ru wanted to be scolded like this. 15. What did you do to our Miss Moru? Jingyu was really curious. While Mo Ru was talking to Feng Yu, Jingyu sneaked up to 15 Xing and asked curiously. Well, 15 Xing touched the tip of his nose awkwardly. Your subordinate was just in a moment of anger. Then I touched her legs. I even sprayed her chest. Although 15 Xing's reply was serious, his ears were slightly flushed as he spoke. Jingyu widened her eyes in shock. 15 Xing, you bastard. Mo Ru hadn't expected that 15 Xing would actually say this when she turned around. Immediately, the furious roar of the day turned into rage and chased after 15 Xing, Tisk, TSK, TSK. Xiao Chun. Jingyu turned to look at Xiao Chun. Xiao Chun was really calm. As expected of someone trained by you, he's really amazing. Jingyu said sincerely to Xiao Chun. Are you praising me? Xiao Chun was taken aback when he heard this. Then, he tilted his head and asked Jingyu with interest. Jingyu looked at Xiao Chen's sparkling eyes and smiled faintly. Yes, I'm praising you. Jingyu hugged Xiao Chen's arm and said. Xiao Chen leaned over and touched Jingyu's cheek lightly. Then, he turned to look at 15th Xing, who was completely caught up in the chase. He really didn't know what 15th Xing would do next. Without a doubt, in the following days. Incomparably lively. Chapter 2071. Jingyu, Xiao Chun, and the rest advanced on the way to the northern borderline. The southern borderline troops behind them were very arrogant and attracted a lot of attention. Because of this, no one noticed Jingyu and Xiao Chun at all. Jingyu, Xiao Chun, and the rest returned to the northern borderline. Looking at the familiar road, a faint smile appeared in their eyes. The northern borderline, this time, should disappear completely. Jingyu said so casually with a mocking smile on her lips. Xiao Chun, Qinggu, and the rest narrowed their eyes slightly. Xiao Chun, are they here? It was obvious that Jingyu was asking about Xiao Bai, Hellion Theo, and the rest. Jingyu really put in a lot of effort this time. She called everyone who had a little relationship with her. Everyone wanted to owe her a favor. With such a bait here, who wouldn't agree? Although Jingyu's pupils had disappeared, Jingyu's children would inherit Jingyu's pupils. There was no difference. They're here. Xiao Chun naturally knew what Jingyu was asking. He nodded calmly with a cold light in his eyes. Beside him, 15th Xing, 3rd Xing, and the rest all had a serious look in their eyes. Jingyu, are you really going to do this? Feng Ling looked deeply at Jingyu and asked, what do you think? Jingyu slowly turned her head to look at Feng Ling. The light that flashed in her pitch-black eyes was stunning. Feng Ling looked at Jingyu and suddenly thought of Jingyu when she had her pupils. Back then, Jingyu's golden-green eyes were so dazzling. But now, looking at the black-eyed Jingyu, Feng Ling didn't feel anything strange. Feng Ling did not feel that anything was amiss. Those pitch-black eyes seemed to be even more eye-catching than the golden-green ones. Feng Ling looked at Jingyu and suddenly seemed to see colors surging in those black eyes. You? Feng Ling opened her mouth to speak, but she immediately shut at the moment she opened it. Jingyu's eyes were still pitch-black. Feng Ling smiled helplessly, thinking that she was overthinking. The pupils had been passed down from generation to generation. Jingyu's children already had pupils of their own. How could Jingyu still have them? Since you've decided, it would be nonsense for me to say anything else. Feng Ling turned her head with a calm expression. Jingyu calmly raised her eyebrows and said, what? The Darkeen sect doesn't intend to interfere? What do you think? Feng Ling's lips curled into a smile. This question was thrown back at Jingyu in the blink of an eye. Jingyu's face darkened. She stared at Feng Ling with disdain and said, I just realized that you were so annoying. After Jingyu finished speaking, she snorted disdainfully and rode her horse back to Xiao Chen's side. Feng Yu, who was behind them, saw that the two of them had finished talking. She quickly came up and looked at Feng Ling curiously. She asked, Brother Ling, have you known Madam for a long time? Not long ago, just like you. Feng Ling seemed to be curious about why Feng Yu would ask such a question. She frowned and asked, what's wrong? Nothing. I just feel that Brother Ling and Madam seem to get along well. Feng Yu said seriously. Looking back, it seemed that no one had such an honor. Chapter 2072. To be able to get along so closely with Brother Ling? Feng Ling laughed coldly. If he could, he would rather not know Jingyu at all. How troublesome. But thinking about it carefully, ever since he got to know Jingyu, his days were getting more and more interesting. Feng Yu rambled on by the side, while Feng Ling responded casually and stopped talking. Qinggu and Qing Shui were discussing the goo poison. Qinggu seemed to be very curious about how the goo poison was differentiated. Qing Shui was also very surprised that Qinggu could create so many strange drugs that were completely used to suppress the goo poison. The two of them chatted happily and had a heart-to-heart along the way. 15th Xing and Mo Ru were fighting along the way. Occasionally, they would be suppressed, but in less than 2 hours, they would definitely fight again. Jingyu looked at the two of them with a headache and was speechless in the end. Along the way, the most silent one was 3rd Xing. He looked straight ahead, and his expression did not change. He was so calm, as if he was a combination of Xing, Yi, and Xing Air. We'll be there in about 2 or 3 days. They walked for more than 10 days. Everyone was fighting along the way, but when they entered the central city of the northern borderline, everyone returned to normal. They probably knew the importance of this day. Jingyu smiled faintly and looked at the city behind the mountains from afar. Her dark eyes were filled with a cold and deep light. They were back. Qing Shui. How many days until the wedding of the northern borderline tribe leader? Jingyu turned and asked. Jingyu looked at the mountains in the distance with a complicated gaze. Her beautiful eyes were shining with a serious expression. She only turned to look at her after hearing her question. 5 days, 5 more days. Qing Shui took a deep breath and said, Okay. Jingyu nodded calmly and said, 5 days is enough for us to prepare. Let's hurry up and go. A group of people entered the town in a grandiose manner. They didn't stop at all and went straight to the center of the town. The prosperity of the northern border was not inferior to that of the southern border. It was just that the southern border was more peaceful. In the northern frontier, there were many silent, murderous intents. Walking on this street, the people from the northern borderline who were casually passing by seemed to be able to see a black furry spider lying quietly on the person's shoulder. Jingyu frowned deeply and unconsciously became vigilant. Don't be nervous. As long as we don't provoke them, they won't take the initiative to attack, Qing Shui said gently as she looked at Jingyu and Xiao Chen's nervous expressions. This is the reason why I hate the northern frontier. Feng Yu frowned in disdain, the dissatisfaction in her eyes deep. The southern borderline people saw the northern borderline people as barbarians, while the northern borderline people saw the southern borderline people as pretending to be virtuous. The two sides had never been on good terms. The corners of Jing Yu's mouth curled into a faint smile when she heard Feng Yu's words. It was very easy for Jing Yu to let down her guard in the southern border. However, in the northern border, one would unconsciously be on guard all over, as if one was prepared to deal with any sudden situation at any time. Xiao Chun and the others checked into the inn without alerting anyone. Be careful. Jingyu checked the terrain, and after making sure nothing went wrong, she returned to the inn with peace of mind. Inside the inn, everyone was inside. Chapter 2073. What do you plan to do next? Qinggu asked curiously as he looked at Jingyu. The most important thing right now is... Jingyu narrowed her eyes deeply when she heard Qing Ji's words. Her pitch-black eyes sparkled with comfort, and a faint smile appeared on her lips. She looked at Qinggu and the others and said, We're going to get the invitations, of course. Jingyu was extremely serious as she looked at Qinggu and the others and said, Since we're going to steal the groom, of course we're going to the wedding venue. If we can't even get in, what's the point? The corners of everyone's mouths twitched when they heard Jingyu's words. However, when they thought carefully about what Jingyu said, it seemed to be true. However, they inexplicably felt that there seemed to be some other strange meaning behind it. I'll prepare for this. When Qing Shui heard Jingyu's words, there was a faint smile in her eyes. She smiled at Jingyu and said, Okay. Jingyu agreed and said to Qing Shui, I'll leave this to you. 3rd Xing, 15th Xing. Jingyu turned to look at 3rd Xing and 15th Xing. Her eyes sparkled with a very deep light as she stared at them and said, I have a very important task for you right now. Please give us your orders, madam. 3rd Xing and 15th Xing immediately stood up respectfully and looked at Jingyu. I want you to find out where Madame Ye is and who are the people hiding in those locations. I'll need Qing Shui's cooperation for this. Jingyu's eyes were smiling faintly. She turned to look at Xiao Chun, Feng Yu, and the others and said calmly, This time, Qing Shui, you're in charge of leading the way. We'll be at your disposal at any time. Understood. Feng Yu raised her eyebrows and smiled. There was a very calm smile in her eyes. Everyone's eyes flashed with a very strong smile. It was as if they had seen a very interesting scene that was slowly beginning to play out. Remember, hide yourselves well. Don't expose your identity, Jingyu said to everyone. Don't worry. Feng Ling smiled disdainfully and said, You should worry about yourself. Don't expose your identity. Jingyu glared at Feng Ling in disdain. Then, she turned around and said a few more things to take note of before instructing everyone to disperse. Beijiang was so frightening that Jingyu and Xiao Chan didn't dare to go out no matter what. If they were discovered by Madame Nie's people, everything would be over. Hence, Jingyu and Xiao Chun were currently holed up in the inn and didn't dare to take a single step out. On the other hand, Qinggu, Qing Shui, and the others wandered around outside and brought back news from time to time. So boring. Jingyu clearly couldn't stand being cooped up in the inn. She wore very simple clothes and sat by the window, her eyes filled with boredom. Meanwhile, Xiao Chun sat on the side and read a book. When he heard Jingyu's words, he turned to look at Jingyu in confusion. Then he casually tossed the book in his hand away and said calmly, "Read." "I'm not reading." Jingyu angrily tossed the book back. Jingyu was extremely disgusted. Xiao Chun looked at Jingyu and sighed deeply before turning to walk toward Jingyu. Chapter 2074. What do you want to do? Xiao Chun looked at Jingyu and asked seriously. "I want to go out and play." Jingyu smiled and looked at Xiao Chun. "No." Xiao Chun's face turned cold as he rejected her flatly. A child abuse." Jingyu hugged Xiao Chun's arm and shook it. "Child." Xiao Chun's face darkened bit by bit. He narrowed his eyes and looked at Jingyu with a strange look in his eyes. He stared at Jingyu and asked, "When did you become a child?" Jingyu was silent for a moment. She didn't know what to say. She simply closed her eyes and fell into Xiao Chun's arms. "Do you want to go out that badly?" Xiao Chun looked at Jingyu's unhappy face and asked quietly. "Yes." Jingyu didn't even think about it and quickly nodded. "If you want to go out, it's not impossible." Xiao Chun looked at Jingyu and said lightly, "What do you have?" Jingyu's eyes lit up and looked at Xiao Chun excitedly. Xiao Chun looked at Jingyu's expression and the corners of his mouth curved up slightly. He said, "I'll tell you tonight." Hey, you can't be like this." Jingyu looked at Xiao Chun, who turned around and left after saying this sentence. Her eyes widened in shock. This guy had piqued her curiosity, and now he was leaving just like that. Good girl. Xiao Chun didn't care about Jingyu at all. He said this sentence as if he was coaxing a child. Jingyu's mouth twitched violently, and then she sighed deeply. She grabbed Xiao Chun's hand and shouted for the whole afternoon, but she didn't see Xiao Chun respond to her. Too bad. Jingyu lay on the soft couch, and her eyes were filled with disappointment. She suddenly thought of something and suddenly jumped up. She stared at Xiao Chun and asked, "I suddenly remembered that you haven't told me whether Xiao Bai came or not." "Yes." Xiao Chun hugged his book and replied indifferently, "Yes." Jingyu stared at Xiao Chun. She looked at Xiao Chun reading and frowned. She asked, "That's it? And then? That's it?" Jingyu's face was filled with shock. She looked at Xiao Chun, who was silent and didn't say a word. She looked at Xiao Chun with a conflicted expression. When would she be able to make Xiao Chun normal? Jingyu was really doubtful when she saw Xiao Chun like this. How did Xiao Chun grow up and not get beaten to death? After Xiao Chun responded, he didn't say anything. He didn't care what Jingyu said and didn't say a word. The afternoon passed very quickly. When Qinggu came back, he kept talking to Jingyu about what interesting things there were in the northern borderline. He didn't see Jingyu's face filled with disgust and was about to explode. Obviously, in the end, Qinggu was beautifully thrown out. Yes, thrown out. Outside the room, Jingyu's voice was full of complaints. Jingyu didn't seem to hear it. She lay in her original position and stared out the window. She looked at the sky darkening bit by bit, and her mood gradually recovered. When she saw that the sky was almost completely dark, Jingyu excitedly grabbed Xiao Chun's hand and said, "It's dark. It's dark. Can you tell me now? Let's eat first." Xiao Chun narrowed his eyes slightly. When he turned his head, he calmly put down the book in his hand and pulled Jingyu to eat. Chapter 2075. Tell me first before you go eat. Jingyu looked at Xiao Chun as if she was about to break down. In the end, Jingyu was still dragged to eat by Xiao Chun. At the dining table, Xiao Chun looked at Jingyu's anxious little face with a faint smile in his eyes. He suddenly realized that teasing Jingyu like this was also very interesting. Beside him, Xing San, Xing Shiwu, and the others looked at the interaction between Xiao Chun and Jingyu with smiles in their eyes. Jingyu finished her meal very quickly, then sat opposite Xiao Chun and looked at him. That leisurely way he ate seemed to be doing it on purpose. Jingyu sighed deeply. Her enthusiasm for the entire afternoon seemed to have faded in an instant. I'm going to sleep. Jingyu stood up indifferently. Xiao Chen's hand that was eating paused instantly. He looked up and saw that Jingyu was really going upstairs so calmly. Her whole body exuded a sense of indifference, as if it was saying, I'm angry. Xiao Chen looked at this scene and instantly put down the bowl and chopsticks in his hands in frustration. He turned his head to look at Xing San and asked, Did I do something wrong? Xing San was also at a loss. Xiao Chun, what's going on between you and Jingyu? Feng Ling walked over to sit opposite Xiao Chun, puzzled. She asked curiously, Jingyu completely ignored me just now. She was exuding a cold aura. Xiao Chun frowned, then suddenly stood up and strode upstairs. Xing San and Feng Ling at the side looked at each other. What's going on between your master and madam? Feng Ling asked curiously. I don't know either, third Xing said quietly, then turned and left. 15th Xing shrugged nonchalantly and turned to leave. Only Feng Ling was left at the table. Feng Ling sat there with a strange expression on her face. Why did she suddenly have a feeling that she could not communicate with him? Jingyu was indeed angry. Her eyes were filled with coldness. When Xiao Chen arrived, he saw Jingyu wrapped up in the quilt and completely ignored him. For the first time, he felt powerless. It was his fault for teasing Jingyu like that. You are, Xiao Chen called out, but Jingyu didn't move at all. She continued to play dead under the blanket. I was wrong. Xiao Chun climbed onto the bed and hugged Jingyu along with the blanket. He spoke sincerely, but Jingyu still avoided him and didn't say a word. Xiao Chen looked at the motionless Jingyu. For the first time, he felt a headache coming on. He reached out to pull Jingyu's blanket in an attempt to pull Jingyu out. However, Jingyu's grip was incomparably tight. Xiao Chun was completely unable to pull the blanket out of Jingyu's hands. Xiao Chen sighed deeply. The surroundings fell into silence. Jingyu curled up under the blanket. When she heard Xiao Chen's words, she already felt it. When she heard Xiao Chen's apology, Jingyu's heart didn't feel anything. It seemed like she was just angry. Now, her anger had naturally dissipated. Originally, she wanted to torture Xiao Chun. She didn't expect Xiao Chun to only say a few words. He actually didn't say anything. His apology was over. Was it over? Jingyu's brows furrowed tightly. She lay there quietly and listened to the movements. She really didn't see Xiao Chun move. Her grip on the blanket also loosened. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.